here are our dialogues for main quest 1 and 2. This is main quest 1's and this is main quest 2. We're doing well, making a bit of progress. First playable build, which up there, that's what we're working on, build 0.1, which is like will be the very, 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 very first build ever. 0.1 is always usually the first build. So all going well. We can release that early in the year this year, as long as real life doesn't hold me up. We're doing okay. We're not like doing super amazingly with progress, but we're doing okay. And this week's goal was to get the dialogue finished for this final scene of main quest 2. So that'll be really cool, because the first playable build will just have main quest 1 and 2 in it, out of the 6 main quests we've got planned for episode 1. Because once we finish this, we'll be saying goodbye to dialogue for a while probably, and working on the actual in-game implementation of it all. But today, one thing I want to do is go over the previous scenes and make sure that it's all ideal before we start actually doing that juicy scene work in RPG Maker next week. So exciting times. And real life getting in the way, no way that will happen. Sadly it does. I try my best to avoid real life getting in the way. I try my best to be a hermit on purpose so that doesn't happen, but it still gets in the way. Like we're in the middle of, me and my rents, we're in the middle of selling our house, because I'm still living with my fam to save the bills, you know. You starving artists like us, or starving creatives, we can't be having our own place so early on in our careers. So it's all about living with the parents as long as possible nowadays. And they wanted to sell this house. We did sell it, but unfortunately it's not happened. The people that bought it, something happened along the way, and it's kind of, the process is kind of halted. So we're having to sell it again. And I had a few randos in my room today as well this morning, which is very nerve-wracking in the middle of a pandemic. Very nerve-wracking, but they were wearing masks and stuff, so we got no choice. We got to just try and sell the house, because if we don't, we lose the house that we've bought, and then we don't move. So yeah, it's a bit stressful because of that, and it's really difficult sometimes to focus, especially on creative things like this project, because with all the things that happen in the house, it's pretty intense and stressful stuff, especially with the randoms coming as well, because that can be distracting too. But luckily they're not coming in the middle of the stream. I was a bit worried that they'd be coming in the middle of the stream, but they've already been and gone, and we've got 4 more coming over the weekend, tomorrow and Sunday. So I'm just hoping one of these people should buy the house so that we don't have to keep having randoms coming round long term. And didn't you buy another house? We've got our house, like it's all fine, but the problem is if we don't sell our house, we're gonna lose ours. So we did sell our house. It was all looking fine, but unfortunately mortgages and that confuse me really, but something happened in the process of the other couple that bought a house that kind of stopped the process going smoothly, and we need to sell it again. We needed to put it back up for sale. It's all very messy, blooming bureaucracy, right? It's all very, very silly. Send me back to the caveman days, please, but with the internet. That's what I say. I'd be happy to just live a simple, minimal life, as long as I got all the things that make me happy and let me do my creative stuff. And so the other house is contingent on selling the one you're at for a damn house. I think basically, yeah, I'm leaving it all to my parents really. But you know, they're under a lot of pressure at the moment to get this process through. Otherwise, so I can't give you folks a date on when I'm going to be having my small break off stream, because obviously with a house move I need to take probably at least a week off, because moving house is no walk in the park. But I can't give you a date like I'd hoped by now, because we don't even know at this point whether it's going to happen at all. So hopefully it does, because we really like that house, and it's more spacious, no annoying neighbours, but it's all going well. It'll still happen, and I have no clue on a date, but it's probably going to be in the spring if it does happen, I'd say. I can't see it being any later than the spring, the first quarter of the year, which means obviously, because this house move is kind of disrupting the work and the first playable build release, I have no idea if that's going to delay my hopes to release this first playable build in the spring. But I'm going to still try. We'll just see where it goes. And as well, I can't believe I haven't said this enough, but yeah, Steam page. We'll be having a coming soon Steam page in the coming weeks. I can't give a date for that yet, because it also depends how quickly Steam approve the page. But it's all very exciting. Thanks to Vandalia, has done something pretty cool, which I have not spoke a word about, not uttered a word about yet to anybody in the community just yet, but it's going to look really good. The Steam page is going to look really cool. It's going to stand out. So I'm super excited to be able to give you guys that link when it finally does launch, and when it does, it'll be posted on the Discord and on the Twitter and mentioned on the stream constantly, because my goal is getting a bazillion wish lists. Well, not a bazillion, I think that's a bit ambitious, but we can hopefully. The goal was to launch the Steam page as early in the year this year as possible. So January, if we can get it done by the end of the month and out, that'll be great, because then by this time next year we might, have built up that momentum a bit, and that's the goal. But by this time next year, the state of episode 1 itself will still be in pre-alpha, but I'm hoping all going very smoothly, and sometimes it doesn't always go smoothly in game development, but if it does go smoothly, I'm hoping that we can have a finished main quest foundation by the end of the year, with about 4 releases throughout the year of different builds that we'll be releasing seasonally, all going well, with an extra main quest in each time. And then that means next year it's all about building on that main quest foundation with all the detail of the world, like side quests, any fancy game mechanical features we want to add that we feel we want to. But all that stuff is all just optional. The main thing is we get that main quest in, because that's the game. That's the main game, right? And all that exciting stuff, all that fluff and awesomeness is stuff to think about later, not now. I remember back in the early streams, in the stream 50 and stream 80, the very early days back when I first started this project in 2019, I'd say things like, okay, tomorrow we're going to do the crafting, tomorrow we're going to do the side quest, and it was all over the place, and you can't get anything done like that. And it's not smart, I think, to think to spread yourself in too many little bits, because then it never gets done. You do too many different bits, and then you have the risk of it ending up buggy and messy and chaotic. So I like how I'm sort of doing everything now, how I'm going about things now, which is much more focused on one thing at a time. So it'll be fun. And hi Zexy, how are you doing? It's good to see you all. Hope you're having a good, I was about to say Monday, but thank goodness it isn't Monday, right? It's Friday. And I'd say that's more like a 2-week move, yeah. I mean, I'd like to just have a week off stream when I have my house move, because you know me, I like to get back into things if I can. But, you know, it's however long it'll take for all we know, I might not have internet for a while, especially with the rush that it is and all the stress. We might end up in a situation where we're internetless for a while. So if that all happens, I'll still have 3G to like update you on the Discord. Obviously 3G, it can be a bit pricey, so I don't really get much 3G time, probably like an hour a month or so. But it'll be enough for me to just put an update on the Discord to let you guys know how things go. But we'll not think about that too much yet, because that's potentially a little bit in the future still. February, March time, it might start being more like that, but I don't have a date yet, unfortunately. I wish I did. I'm one of these people that I'm a planner. I like to know what's ahead of me. And it's really nice to know what's coming up, but we'll just have to see. And doing good, have coffee, so can't complain. Oh, what sort of coffee do you like most, Sexy? I'm just rambling on about my house move, because I don't know who here knows. I know some of you that hear most days know about it, but I am moving this year. I'm moving house with my family, just not anywhere like far away. Just we want a bigger house with more space that's a bit more private, really. And it's proven to be quite the process, a bit of a messy and chaotic process. And we don't have a date yet for when that move is going to be, but obviously I'll have to have a bit of time off when that move happens. And I'll be updating you all in Discord when it does. I just hope that it's not too disruptive, so it's not disruptive of what we're doing here, because I'm really, really, really keen on releasing that first playable build at some point in the spring. Whether it's probably not going to be March, because that's a bit early, considering we have to spend a lot of time just fleshing out this new battle system that we'll be talking about once we've got the seed stuff all over and done with, and that'll probably take a few weeks to polish. So it's probably not going to be March. Probably not going to, if it all going well, I mean, considering the bumps that we've got with the house move and everything happening, I'd be happy if we released it in May, but we'll see. If we meet that spring that deadline, whether it's May or whatever, I'll be happy. We'll see, folks. So, okay, getting back into the scene work then, we'll finish my rambles now. So last stream, well, we'll talk about what we did at the start of the week first. On Monday, we did the first part of this scene, which involved the loss of the fruits. Either them running away or getting murdered, depending on what you wanted to pick. And that was fun. It was fun thinking of like what they could say as they perished. And then on Wednesday's stream, our last stream, we started thinking about how that could flow into a bit of a confrontation between Carol and us, the hero, for character development's sake. You know, any opportunity to get to understand these characters and get us interested and invested in the story is good. It's certainly better than just being like, okay, they're dead, we're done, let's go back to Loud 4, end of quest. So instead of doing that, where we just could have just gone back to Lightfall and ended the quest, we've lengthened the scene out somewhat, and we had a bit of hero and Carol conversation, and it was a bit tricky because doing things like this takes so much thinking and focus and planning. But I had to think off stream, and I got some structure towards this confrontation with Carol and the hero, which I'm going to run through now. and then we'll finish the scene. There's a couple more dialogue boxes left to get in before we finish it for good. And then the rest of the stream, once we've done this scene, because there's not much left to do in regards to this scene really, so maybe we will get time to do the rest. What's planned for the rest of the stream is go over the scenes involving Nigel and Fiona, and with the knowledge of them that we've built from their character arcs that we did last week, we can make sure that their dialogue is perfection. And I'm going to get up a Google Doc, and I'm going to write a timeline of the history of these Lakefall residents, Nigel and Fiona, and the things that they did pre-game before the events of the very opening scene begun, which involves when they met the fruits, how they know the fruits in the first place, all that kind of thing, like, so that we can keep as cohesive as possible with our story, because we don't want things to happen where things contradict each other, which always will happen if you've not planned out your timelines properly, because then you don't really understand things in the first place, right? So that's one thing we can do today, and I'm excited to do that too. I think Zexy will be excited to hear some of it as well, because I'm going to be mentioning a couple of things that we might have not mentioned in a while. I think it's kind of exciting, so we'll talk about that after we've done the scene. Okay, so I've added the Apple dialogue. You can follow this on the World Anvil page, folks, on our Lore Bible. This is probably updated now. I've updated this so that Apple's given us a map of, and this will lead to the secret grove of wild fruit trees, but he doesn't say that in this scene. So I like that we don't have to get super wordy about the secret grove of wild trees, because it kind of went on a little bit, having to say the direction and what it was. So this way it keeps it really short and sweet and intriguing, because obviously we're going to want to know more, because there's this map and we're like, oh, what's this map going to be? That's kind of what we should be thinking as the player. So it just gets it stops it being overly wordy, and it's easy enough to kind of still do what we wanted to. And I've made these text boxes blue, because the blue means that you've gained positive affinity points. That's kind of how I'm going about it now. I've recently colour coded the dialogue boxes, so anywhere where there's blue means positive affinity points, and anywhere where there's red means negative affinity points, because it just makes it a little bit easier to keep track of the relationships that way. And obviously, if you spare them, you'll get affinity points, because you've saved their lives, and when you meet them later in the game, they will remember that, even though they're going to still be quite antagonistic, because the villains, you'll have gained affinity points because you did save their lives. And as for the killing the fruits, that doesn't give minus points, simply because they've already died, so they're no longer a thing in the story. So unless there's a plot point that involves a sort of vengeance route where, something bad happens to you because you killed the fruits, there's not really any need to have negative points, because they're kind of no longer in the game at this point. So now here we go. So I've put a reaction for Violet. If the fruits die, she looks sad, and if they escape, she looks worried. Now, the worried facial expression will probably be very subtle, but I think it's good to give somewhat of a reaction, even if it's subtle. It's better than her having a smiling face, I suppose. So maybe just a slightly furrowed brow or something, or just something that... and the reason why she looked worried is because they were after her blood, so them still being alive is going to make her think, I hope they don't come back for me. I think it's really cool to have character reactions to major events that have happened, rather than them just being blank and absolutely nothing at all from them, which is why I like the idea of Violet looking sad, because a gory death scene just happened here. Although we didn't like them very much, they still died, and Violet, as a character that's quite a very soft-hearted person deep down, despite being a vampire, would be the perfect character in the scene to be the one that does look sad. Carol definitely wouldn't be the one that's sad. She's very much the opposite. She's happy they're dead. So it's a real contrast between the two women and what they're like as people in regards to their compassion. So obviously the main aim of this whole sequence and this main quest is for Carol to fight to get one step ahead in regards to finding her family, getting that clue she so desperately needs, which is Violet doing the painting for her. So all she's thinking about right now is, I want Violet to finish that painting. The fruits are gone now. They were the ones that distracted us. So just carry on, just carry on with the painting like we wanted to. So us as the hero, obviously having this secret that we actually have an item that belongs to one of the barrels in our pocket, which is going to be expanded on a little bit in Main Quest 3. I'm thinking because Main Quest 3 is going to be the downtime quest where we sort of chill in Lakefall for a bit. It will be an opportunity to maybe have a really, really short flashback scene of when the hero went in that wagon and found that item. And although the hero wouldn't know much, they don't know who's kidnapped the barrels, their knowledge surrounding the barrels is very, very vague and limited, but they did find one of their items in their past. And that, to us as the hero, that probably is enough information that could potentially help Carol. So a good and brave hero would likely want to fess up to this and be honest with Carol, whereas an evil or cowardly hero probably wouldn't want to risk, a cowardly one wouldn't want to risk getting on Carol's bad side, so they'd think, I'm going to shut up because she's a bit of a confrontational one, and the evil hero probably would just want to be a bit evil and not be honest, a bit of a scoundrel. So yeah, she's not going to like being interrupted, even though you're trying to help. She's not going to see it that way. She just sees you as disrupting her from her goals and what she wants right now. Let's catch up with chat first before we carry on with how this conversation develops though. Does the herbalist live in Lakefall? Will they need to be on the timeline? And I like that it makes it physically easier to track what's going on in real life with the colour. It does. Ever since I changed the boxes, I'm like, this is so much easier to just look at and take it in, because really one of the purposes of these flow diagrams isn't just, obviously it helps us as a community to write the story and see in front of us in a much easier way. That's one reason I like doing it this way rather than just putting it straight into RPG Maker editor. But the other reason is because it's really this organised approach is going to help so much when it comes to adding the affinity points behind the scenes and all those variables to just get up the chart and keep track of it all in the most effective way possible. So that's another reason it's a good call. And as for the herbalist living in Lakefall, she will probably live within the Everbloom Forest because she's a fairy. She wouldn't be within Lakefall because the people of Lakefall are all humans and they tend to be a bit xenophobic with people of other races. They aren't entirely against other races coming into the town because it helps their business. They've got shops and items to sell, but they're still very close-knit, and the people that actually are residents of the town, they only like those that they feel comfortable with. But there's people like fairies and elves are very much likely to be living within the actual forest itself, and I can imagine that the herbalist would be. Whereas the diplomat character who is the other option for who you can pick as a party member in main quest 3, will probably be actually within Lakefall. She's a human character and she's also a diplomat, and she's probably somewhat assisting the village, because in her bio it says that she likes to like help others and assist people in need. But that'll be fun as well to like recruit one of those characters. That's another thing that will be happening in main quest 3 too. So we'll have an opportunity to develop both those two characters in that quest. Okay, so Carol tells us to shut up, or she tells us Violet to paint. It depends on whether we interrupt her or not. So it was important for this dialogue, whatever it was, to fit with both of these, just to make it a bit easier on us. And I figured the evil hero would just be as blunt as they come. And when we gain evil points, I know that it sounds very polarising, good and evil, but what we also have to realise is that there is like a difference between someone really far extreme on the evil scale and someone who's just got a few evil points. Like people who are just kind of going into evil are more like a rogue and a bit of a ruffian, a bit of a troublemaker, a bit mischievous type maybe. Whereas someone really far into evil is someone that's really unredeemable and is a psychopath almost. So there's a scale at the end of the day, and you can be evil and pick evil options without being completely evil in this game. And same for good, like someone who's just got a few good points or is closer to neutral is probably like, reasonably decent and wants to do the right thing, but someone who's really far into good is like really like as honourable as they come. So really I wanted a contrast between the two so it was clear what was the most troublemaking, mischievous choice out the two and what was the most polite and sensible and virtuous. And that's why I kind of put the devil emoji for evil and the angelic one for good, so we can kind of see that one's about being virtuous and this one's more about being mischievous and troublemaking. So Carol at this point has been a bit out of line even to a good hero though, so they would tell her to stop behaving this way. They're not, I don't know about saying this way though, I was thinking of saying something like please stop behaving and then actually using a descriptive word to describe the behaviour. But it definitely shouldn't be as far out as you're the most selfish person I've ever met, because that's very extreme and that's very aggressive and confrontational. And that's going to get Carol wound up more and make you lose infinity points with her more than that. That probably wouldn't gain you any points though. You're just going to not get any or lose any for that one. But this one's just more of a reasonable approach to making Carol see the light and kind of calm down a bit. Like, whereas this one's just going all out, like ripping it to shreds sort of option. That's kind of how I see the difference. Hi Nungi and Wolf, how are you guys doing? It's so good to see you. And then that's going to lead on to Carol reacting to you telling her, and the dialogue is mostly going to be the same but slightly different. Like it's ultimately has to end saying that she's doing this for her family. So obviously she's saying that she's not selfish there because she's doing this to protect her family, so she's denying her selfishness. Whereas this one, she's saying I'm not behaving anyway. What I'm doing is for my family. So, but the reason why we have to have the family bit come up here is because that is gonna give purpose and context to this particular dialogue box. Because one of the aims with this conversation, in fact the main aim of this conversation, is for the hero to confront Carol about the names that she gives them. Flesh bags, it being not a nice word, so that it can sit in Carol's head a bit and she can kind of realise how she's behaving. And I figured the family, her bringing up the family would be the perfect sort of way to link this together, because it's true. It's like, you know, you go on about wanting to help your family, but yet you treat the rest of us like crap, really, Carol. And there's a different approach. The first one's more, you know, mature and reasonable and true and honest and blunt, but in a way where it's not mean or horrible. Whereas this one is like full on telling her that, you know, you're actually worse than the Fruits, who were actually bad guys. So, and then Carol's gonna kind of think for a moment. That was my aim with the next part. She's actually gonna turn around and be like, Eva, I'm sorry. And that's actually a big deal coming from Carol, an apology. And I figured having her be like this, a bit, having a quiet moment and be a bit vulnerable, would be more effective at this point than shouting and being like, no, you know. I think seeing that moment from Carol is progress that we need at this point. Even if she doesn't become our friend just yet, it's one step forward, and it's gonna kind of be the catalyst for what stops her calling us a flashback. And I think that was necessary. And then there's one more chance to say something else, because we need to close this conversation now. So either we intimidate her, or we tell her that let's just get on with things and get on. I figured that would be... We had a few dialogue ideas last stream, and a court call was an insult that was mentioned several streams ago for Carol. And I figured saying shove a fruit in was was fitting with the fact that there's fruits around at the moment. Could be a foreshadowing. Yes, that is our Discord. Well, feel free to join, folks. Join our Discord if you want to keep updated with the development of the game. Discord's a great place to be. If you want to keep updated with the game more, like, visually, YouTube's a good place to be as well, because I load the VODs on there, and I'm trying my best to keep them organised now. I've been like sort of renaming the titles, and rather than being just like a mass of videos like it used to be, I'm kind of trying to be specific about what we did at each stream, and I think it's actually helping a bit. So feel free to follow me on the YouTube as well if you're not already, folks. I'd super appreciate the support. And speaking of evil, there is an old D&D splat book that talks about different kinds of evil and evil motivations. I have a PDF of it somewhere. If you don't mind, I'll drop in the Discord. It's fluff section. It might be useful for coach and quest ideas. Yeah, totally, Saxon. That sounds really interesting. Because that's something to consider for sure. Like, that sort of thing, I think, would be handy, seeing as we're going down the route of evil hero. Okay, and then that would develop into her agreeing or being like, you know, I don't want to argue with you, let's just find my family. And the purpose for this dialogue box really is so we can get the conversation moving, and it leading to the hero agreeing that Violet needs to paint this painting, because otherwise we'll be here all day and the painting will never get done. And we don't want to slow the pacing down too much, because there's, you know, we've held off from getting this painting painted long enough. So that's gonna develop into us just talking about the family, and whatever we say here is going to just make her panic a bit and have this desperation moment and say that she needs to know who took them. And that's like the moment that we agree that Violet should paint, and we'll nod or look at Violet to paint. We don't necessarily have to make a knot in animation. It might be a little bit hard on the custom hero to do that, being as there's multiple assets, even with the new better version of the custom hero. But you know, we'll say, because it's good with the new custom hero we got, it's going to be a bit easier to get some sort of reaction. They're not going to just have to be a complete cardboard cutout, but at the same time, I don't want to get over ambitious here, because we'll be here for the whole year just animating the hero. But yes, so that was the conclusion to this confrontation. It had to end with us agreeing that Violet should paint, because let's not forget, we were telling her to stop at the start of this scene. We told Violet to stop. So this confrontation had to end. Took us having a sort of change of heart, having a bit of like sympathy, and being like, yeah, you know, she probably should find a family. And I think at one point I wanted Carol to have a monologue talking about a family in each of them, and like talk about Oliver a bit and the sister a bit, but I figured it's not the right time to do that in this scene. I thought maybe when we go back to Lakefall and have our downtime, there could be a moment with Carol where we could ask her those kind of things and what her relationship was like with them when we've actually got the downtime, because this is a pretty intense scene at this point. We were waiting for her to find out something really, really key and important to Carol, so I doubt she's going to be there rambling too much at this point. She's just desperate at this point for Violet to do this painting. So she's sad, she's desperate at this point, and she could only feel that desperation with the hero telling her how it is, that the fact is they already might be dead, already might be hurt, because that's going to make her panic naturally and be like, she needs to paint. So I feel like it's having a good think about it between last stream and this stream, I've managed to get those key points flowing better than it was last week, because it was a little bit all over the place last stream, and it wasn't like there wasn't like a connection between each of the dialogue boxes we were thinking of. But I think that flows. I mean, feel free to let me know what you think, chat, if you're looking at the Law Bible, the flow chart in the Law Bible, because you can see it better on there. If I put Law Bible link, exclamation mark law, does that do it? Yeah, it does. So that'll send you there, folks. So yeah, this is still first draft, so you never know, you guys could have some thoughts about, you know, any improvements or alterations. I'm all for hearing that. I'm happier than I was with it last stream, but still, you never know, there could be other things that I haven't even thought of. I'm only one pair of eyes, but it's at a good state now that I think we can move on to the next and final part of the scene. So let me just get Google Docs up. I've opened another window to get this up, but I'll get it up for you folks in a sec. There we go, here it is. So this is where we got up to. You scold at Carol for being selfish, which we did, as if with our evil hero. You could point out that even the fruits, as evil as they were still called humans, not flesh bags. Mention the names she uses are hurtful. Suggest Carol's behaviour and morals are worse than the fruits. Carol could be quite visibly upset or angry. I feel like we hit all those key points that we wanted to. Parts of it were the evil hero and parts of it were the good hero. But it was just reworded differently depending on which one. But I'm definitely feeling a different vibe with each. Like the evil hero comes across to me as someone who's using intimidation tactics to shut Carol up. Like shut her up in intimidation, because they've kind of said there, like, if you irritate me again, you know, I'll give her a threat almost. So whereas this hero is trying to make her see the light but in a way that could change her character for the better, in a way that they're trying to be a good mentor and influence to Carol. They're definitely not being soft, but they're not being mean or aggressive either. There's a clear difference there, and I think that difference kind of goes well with the character arc thing we got planned in last week's streams. If we just get that up, here it was, just very quickly. We got here the outcomes for Carol's character arc, and it says that the good wise hero may encourage Carol to realise her belief is that, so they're like really a mentor to help that character complete their character arc and have the most positive and inspiring ending possible for them, which is this one. And I feel like if we continue for that good hero to have that sort of dialogue where they inspire the character to progress in their arc, then we're making progress there. Because really the aim of the good wise hero is to kind of help Carol along the path where she realises that she can be friends with humans and others that aren't her own kind. And this is step one into doing that. This dialogue box here, because it's already kind of persuading her not to call us names, and there's still a long way to go in this journey, but that's definitely one. If she stops calling us some names, that's definitely one box ticked. And as for the evil hero, they're entirely different. Like we said, it's more about intimidation with the evil hero rather than giving Carol an inspiring journey. And we've got here the evil hero may force Carol to face her fear by continuously intimidating and threatening her, further proving to Carol that humans can't be trusted. She sticks with you but will drop you once her goal has been achieved. So it's true, folks. We talked about it last week. It's likely. We're very attached to this scenario now, but it's not going to happen till mid-game or even mid-end game. Somewhere between mid and end game. Carol will leave. She won't be your inventory anymore. She'll just hop off, should I say, as a barrel. And then your quest objective after she's left will say, find a new inventory. How shocking would that be? And we had some contenders for who this new inventory could be, but I'm going to be blunt and honest here. I think Woody could be a good contender. He's not a barrel. He's kind of a little bit not linked to the barrel kind, so if any of the barrels are going to separate from the kidnapped barrel crew, it would be Woody. He's a box after all. He's not much use to the kidnappers, so I could see him maybe meeting us first before we actually find the barrels, and he could be a fit. I think he's an interesting character that could be moulded by an evil hero more than Carol could be, because Carol's very principled and she wouldn't put up with that manipulation and those threats. But Woody's a bit different. He's a bit more of a people pleaser. It could be interesting with him. Okay, so 3 steps left. Eventually you feel bad for Carol and nod at Violet to go ahead with the painting, and she paints a portrait of a reptile. So that's what we did. You nod at Violet to paint. All right. Let me just one sec, because I've got some notes somewhere. I'm gonna just go on my area where I keep them. Okay, so we've done that bit. We've already nodded at her to go ahead with the painting. She paints a portrait of a reptile, so that's the next bit. Now, this is all very quick stuff compared to what the more confusing conversation we had to do last stream that we had to rack our brains about a bit. This one's just simple actions and like in the scene, not dialogue. So paints a reptile. Oh, hang on. Instead of doing that, what we should do, we don't tend to use the green box for characters that don't really involve us. So we'll actually use Violet's dialogue box. We'll say paints a reptile. Or we could word it as finishes the painting. So we're coming towards the last part of the scene now, so this is fun times. So finishes the painting. It is a picture. Well, portrait is the right word really, of a reptile. Kia, oh my goodness, thank you for that raid. How was your stream, Kia? Tell us what you were up to. How, were you working on your game? RPG Maker said, tell us how your project is going, your game. Tell us how the progress has been. We're all very interested. Alright, so she just painted this painting, and then we'll say the group surround it. Now we can cross that off because we've done that. Now, this one was something I've been mulling over. You asked Carol if she recognises opportunity for some lore and twisted facts about reptiles here. You decide to go back to Lakefall to ask villagers what they know. Now, I was thinking about it. At first I thought, oh, maybe Carol knows some stuff, but I'm thinking maybe Carol knows absolutely nothing about reptiles. And that just makes it a little bit more mysterious then for when we go back to Lakefall, because then it's all up to the people of Lakefall to tell us what they're like. And that's going to be the chance of when we can start hearing all this propaganda and these rumours about them, because we've had that trigger from this painting. So up until that point, we're not going to know about the reptiles. They haven't entered the game as antagonists yet. The first time we was in Lakefall, it was all about the things, the objects coming to life and them being fearful. Not much about the reptiles probably would have been mentioned. If there was, it would have been very vague, like maybe one of the NPCs being like, the reptiles are back, or they're back, I know it, or just something very vague, but not going into the nitty-gritty about them as a race just yet. The chance to get really into the reptiles will be when we return to Lakefall for the second time after this quest. Because otherwise, if we were having all the reptile sort of stuff happening in the first quest when we was in Lakefall, that would have distracted from the sentient objects coming to life plot. So I'm thinking Carol shouldn't know anything, and she could be a bit like, yeah, because Carol, she's lived, 6 months, she's been on the road, she's been around Lakefall and the farmlands, but let's not forget the reptiles are very, very isolated from mankind, and they likely just hide about in their cave because they're planning stuff. They're definitely not going out into the open boldly, not at this point. They might do that at the end of episode 1 when Rex's character decides, let's begin this resistance and march to Lakefall. That will be the climax moment of episode 1. But Up until this point, the reptiles have been very hidden away, and we know that we're going to have a forbidden human and reptile romance in the game, but that romance has been very sneaky, you know. It's that reptile in that romance has probably been hiding to make sure they've not been seen. So it only makes sense, really, for Carol to not really know about them, because of the fact that they've been so disconnected from society. Because what I really think would be cool is if us as the player really get this picture of the reptiles in our heads from the humans are Lightfall, that sounds really vicious and horrible and antagonistic and almost very beast-like, almost like they're actual reptiles and beasts, monsters almost. But really, in reality, they're just people. They're just the same as humans, except reptile skin. But they talk the same, they walk the same, and they act the same. And I think it'd just be more of a shock and a pleasant surprise to not have a clue that they're like that until we actually go into the cave. And we've all heard this twisted propaganda until then. And I was just mapping a couple of things. I've been trying to stream for an hour or so after to get at least something done on my game. Nice flowery top, by the way. Yeah, it's a flowery top indeed. Yeah, it's a nice one. I haven't worn this one in a bit, I don't think. And what have you been mapping? Yeah, and it can be hard to get things done on your game, right? Like, especially on stream. These monsters have to be the lizard's fault. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if they're going to be mentioned in that opening sequence in Lightfall at the start, it would be like very vague stuff at this point. And I know that you suggested, Zexy, a while back that we have a little peek into the reptile forbidden romance in a forced scripted cut scene at the start of the game, where we can like maybe see one of them saying, no, you can't go, then having a bit of a fight, the human in the relationship with their sibling or their parent. But I figured the perfect part to have that little scripted scene would be the time when we return back to Lightfall, or just before we go to the cave even, because there's a relevance to that scene then. We'll have been introduced to the reptiles and it'll have a bit more meaning. We could do it at the start, we could always do it in Main Quest 1, but if we approach it from more of a you can't go out there because the forest is dangerous sort of perspective, then we could do it like that, because that's what the beginning of the game's all about. It's about that the forest is this scary place because things are coming to life. We know little about the reptiles at that point, but if we want to focus more on the actual reptile aspect rather than the fear of the forest aspect, then Main Quest 3 onwards would be the right point for that. But we'll decide, because I know when we start writing the quests, we might figure out the best part to slot them in afterwards, or in hindsight. So let's cross that off. Now, Carol probably should speak now. It makes sense for her to be the one that has this reaction, because at the end of the day, she's the one that cares. So honestly, I wonder what she could say. I'm trying to get into Carol's head. She's just seen the kidnapper of her family, and it's a race that she doesn't know. It's just like a complete... She'd be a bit baffled, really. As in, who's this? Almost like confused. And that confusion and complete question mark will lead us to realise we have to return to Lightfall and ask more of the people there to get more understanding of this person, this reptile and you sound like me when I'm on patrols. I'm constantly talking to myself about all the ideas in my head about the game, yeah, what the streams are about. It's good to do that though. And you know why it's good? Because you can watch back the videos, the VODs after, and it's always forever there then. It never gets forgotten. The problem when you only keep things in your head and you don't have it recorded or written or said out loud, it can just be forgotten forever, and then one day you're like, oh my god, I forgot what my idea was. But when you say it all out loud on a recorded video, you can't forget then. Yeah, this is a challenging one, having a Carol reaction to that, because we're used to Carol being so aggressive about other kinds of people that aren't her own. We've already seen how much she hates humans. Be interested if we had her be a bit more ambivalent. Is that the word, ambivalent? Like indifferent to a race, rather than just be ripping into reptiles the same as she does for humans. But I think she'd just be a bit confused at this point. She probably doesn't know who these people are, because she doesn't know the hijackers. She was hidden in the car when the barrels got kidnapped. So look at all those raindrops. Look at all those raindrops. Shares one of his fancy beers with Rose Rainbow because he's missed hanging out in a chat, because she's awesome. Well, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate kind words. We all have to hear them from time to time. And that's what I would recommend. Set it up in Main Quest 1 and you can have it be, or just come across as about the dangers of the forest, then have a spot where the player might be able to see the human and lizard but not interact sometime in Main Quest 2. Then the payoff of the setup is in Main Quest 3 with the murder. Yeah, see, I think that's ideal now. At first I was like, yeah, we won't introduce that character until Main Quest 3 because then it's relevant to the reptiles then, but having it start in Main Quest 1 but be vague is probably the best move, because it's kind of introducing that character to us as early as possible, that human person who's in that romance. And that means the earlier we know them and the sooner that it stretches the arc out a bit more, and they're not like complete strangers to us then. We're more likely to care about them if we meet them a bit earlier on. So even if it's vague, like we could have the human character like about to cross the bridge of Lightfall, and their sibling or family member, whoever, like stops them and he's like, you don't go there, that forest is dangerous right now, you know what's been happening, don't do it. And you see that family member pleading to their relative not to go there, but they argue back. And it's vague right now why they want to go into the forest. Like, we don't realise they've got a reptile lover in the forest at this point, but when we see them later in Main Quest 3, we actually find out then why they've gone into the forest, and it's because they've got that reptile lover, and so that will be it'll just like it's like slowly revealing the details to us then, rather than just forcing it all on us at once. I much prefer stories where those little details are like gradually revealed, rather than you just get a complete like story given to you immediately and you can't process it then. Rex says, I find it odd that I've been lurking all day today and my character isn't on the screen. Well, you're there now, look, you're there. Maybe your tab crashed, because that's happened to me before when I've been in your stream, Rex. I've been like lurking and I've looked at the viewer list and I've been like, why aren't I on the mod list? And I've been like really confused, but I've been lurking now streaming. Sometimes I just blame it on either Twitch balking or my tab crashing, and it doesn't class me as a viewer or something if it's done that. So, but at least you're there now. The fact that you've spoken and your character's here shows that it's working now. So, you're number 30 on the leaderboard, Kia. How exciting. I know that Van was... did Van get into the top 10? Let's just look. Oh, Van, you caught up with Chub Cheeks. Did you know? Azriel's still number 5. As you can say, there's definitely a lot of slots you guys can nick in the top 10, because there's a lot of people that haven't been to the stream in a long time in that top 10, so you can sneak to the top easily. Hi Real Super Cool, how you doing? The app checks the chat, not the viewer list. Yeah, it's weird though, Super Cool, because my stream avatars version has always pulled the characters from the viewer list rather than the chat, and I've always been a bit nervous about that because it's kind of calling out my lurkers, but you can only be on this list if you're actually a character in the game anyway, and you're kind of like an MVP of the stream to have a character anyway, so I feel a bit less guilty. I'd feel really guilty if it was a new person and it called them out though. But I don't think the folks that have been here long term mind so much about their characters walking across. We're very we show our faces in this stream, we're not shy. Okay, I'm Nina past Chub, yay! And Zexy says, I think her racism stems from the death of her parents. Since lizards weren't involved, she's a villain, but as soon as she finds out it was the lizards that stole her family, she just gets just as racist towards them, maybe. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, Zexy, and that's kind of how I'm seeing it too. It makes sense at this point for Carol to not really hate reptiles. One, because they weren't involved in her tragic past. Humans are responsible for all the horrible things that have happened to Carol, including the death of her parents. So she's not really... there's no purpose for her to hate them. And two, because she's never seen reptiles before. Reptiles have been completely isolated from the outside world. They've lived in their cave since Carol's been born. Yes, the reptiles once did populate Lakefall, but that was a long time ago, well before the spell. Well before the spell. So Carol, just an unknown race. Carol now, her reaction should almost be like she's seeing an alien, because this person on this painting is someone that she is not familiar with. So the question is what her reaction is going to be when she sees the face of this reptile in the painting. This is the conclusion of this main quest, because all we have to do at this point, and we can't ask Carol that Carol sees the reptile. We'll just shorten it to that because we've decided Carol doesn't know about the reptiles, so it's no good asking her what she knows about them. We'll find that information out from the Lakefall citizens, otherwise it defeats the purpose of going back there to find out information. And then lastly, before heading back, you realise you can't let the villagers see Violet. She was meant to be sacrificed. You could either suggest she hides in Carol or go back to Lakefall with her and not care, and that was a third alternative option, but I don't know if we'd do that one, but it was interesting. So we've got not much left to do. I can see us having Carol's reaction. We'll put that in brackets. Carol reacts to seeing the reptile. They are a race she is not familiar with. But of course, Zex is right, she's going to get just as mad at reptiles because they're responsible for the kidnapping of her loved ones. And Van says, yeah, I think it checks chat because mine didn't show up until I said something. Oh, right, so it's changed now. Maybe Steam Avatars had an update. Maybe that's how it's working now. Because I know before, recently, like as long as I've known it, it's always pulled the characters from the lurker list. But if it's only triggering now, when people talk in chat, maybe they've changed things. But I can change it again if I want, because I'm allowed to have it call it from the lurk list. I'll have to look in the settings. And yeah, it's weird, you know, but we're happy with how it works for us anyway. It's how we've had it for a long time now, for over a year. And stream avatars back to it. I'm always when walking around and lurking, I'm there first before my first chat. Was it like that on Wednesday, Rex? Did you notice? Is this the first day it's done that? Maybe, I mean, I wouldn't think too much of it if it's only been one occasion. It could just be a weird glitch. We know that Twitch has been balking a bit lately, and I can tell you that my tabs have crashed before too, so as long as it's not an everyday thing, I wouldn't worry too much. Don't do it, it's a trap. Alright, so there we've got, and I hope work goes well. Enjoy the work, Rex. Carol reacts to seeing the reptile. They are a race she's not familiar with, because we don't know exactly what she's going to say, because I'm a bit stumped on what Carol's reaction to this reptile is going to be right at this point in time. I'm going to just keep that description in brackets for now, and we'll finish the rest of the scenes. So now you decide to go back to Lightfall, ask the villagers what they know, but lastly, before heading back, you realise that the cards of Isle, of course, because that was the quest Fiona gave us, to sacrifice Rose to the fruits. So they would obviously freak out if Rose was coming into Lightfall with the rest of the party, with the hero, should I say. So Carol, something she could say is, Carol really needs to be the one that demands they go back to the village. I mean, it's not going to be Violet because she doesn't speak. I can't see it being the hero because he's not as passionate about this quest as Carol is. Carol, being the one who's really determined and desperate, would be the one that demands they go back to the village and find out more. But this is going to be just very rough first draft dialogue. What's the arrow? God, I can't stand how it deals with emojis. But I've got another solution. This is probably easier than going on Google and copying and pasting. Down arrow, there we go. Because I'm not going to be very in love with this dialogue, I'll tell you that we're about to write for Carol. It's going to just be a very messy version of what I'm trying to get across. So I'm going to highlight it as this. It'll get smoothed over and made into Carol's voice afterwards, once we know what it is we're trying to say. So go back to the village right now. And ask everyone who this is. She needs to kind of show, I guess you'd be feeling somewhat glad that you found the culprit. It's almost like, you know, your kid getting murdered or your family member getting murdered and then finding out who did it. you'd feel a sense of relief, but there'd also be anger and revenge inside you as well to deal with this person. So she should definitely show the confusion when she sees so like something like who's that? What would they want with my family? It's good. So, you know, we'll have that there for now. If anyone has any thoughts, feel free to say though. If you've got a different perspective on how you think Carol would react as well, feel free to share your thoughts, chat. But we'll keep it like this for now. Sometimes it's easier to just get rough thoughts down when you can't exactly and process it a bit first, and then sometimes things can come to you after. But it's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal, Rex, because you gotta walk across there forever until the end of a time. You're right, I quit. And messy is good. Messy means you've gotten it out onto the page, which is the hardest part, and then a second draft is for making it look like you knew what you was doing the whole time. Yeah, that's how I see, like, when it comes to first drafts, like real first drafts, before you've even structured the thing, I see it as just write down whatever and just what you're trying to get across. You don't think too much about the character's tone of voice or way of speaking first time. Just get what they need to say down, like the main gist of it, what needs to progress the plot, and then get into the tone of voice after. So there we go. Now, the next bit. Now, I've got the perfect solution now. Well, something to flow cool. No, I wouldn't say it's the perfect solution, but I've definitely got an idea. I'm being a bit cocky saying it's the perfect solution, but I've got an idea on how we can make it all flow with the Violet stuff, with her being hidden or not. So the good hero could say something like, I don't know if that's the right way to structure that question, but basically what I'm trying to get at is Carol has not thanked Violet once. Like, Violet's done this painting for her, and she's just like getting so like carried away, being like, let's go back to the village. And she's not even thanked. Why would she thank Violet? Carol's selfish. Like, the last thing she'd do is thank Violet. If she did, you'd think, Carol, are you okay? Are you still Carol the Barrel? You would think someone had taken over a body. But, you know, a good hero, as we say, a good hero who is trying to get the best out of Carol and make her the best person she can be and inspire her to reach her full potential as a character, is going to be a good mentor to Carol and kind of encourage her to do the right thing, even if it's uncomfortable for her, because she's probably not going to like saying thank you to Violet. And as for the evil option, I suppose they could, I mean, I'm a bit unsure on that one, but we can think of a sort of polarising thing that could work well, but still lead us to the same thing. But that just, that just puts Violet back into the situation, and it's gonna just remind us as the audience that Carol, once again, is a little bit selfish. And it's going to have hopefully have impact when Carol finally is a bit nicer to us. Like, she's finally got the message. Because one day Carol will say thank you to us, and she will start calling us flashbacks, and she'll start calling us by our name. And it's because of this. This conversation is one step to making Carol question her actions. Because without this conversation here, Carol's got no reason to improve as a human being. Well, she's not a human being. Carol's got no reason to improve as a person. Okay. It's all I can think now. Carol will be like, no, I'm not gonna thank her. Because Carol would just feel really uncomfortable at the thought of thanking Violet. Like, she bullied her this whole time. That is like when you're at school and the bully is being mean to you, and the teacher comes up to you both and looks at the bully and says, you apologise to that child now. It's kind of like the bully being forced to apologise. And messy is good though. Yeah, I've already read that bit. And Super Cool said, interesting to see how much thought goes into. Yeah, I ramble on so much, Super. You can see these streams are literally just me, just like rambling on to my community about these wacky characters. But I see that as a really good thing, because they're gonna be so fleshed out eventually. Like, we're only at the tip of the iceberg with this project right now, this game. We haven't even got the first playable build out yet. So, imagine how much we're gonna know them by the time we've like really got into the real meaty part of this game. They're going to be like our children. We're going to know them better than we know ourselves. With how I talk about them. Hi Drakitas, how are you doing? It's so good to see you. I hope you're having an awesome day. How is your Friday going? We can say looks awkward. But we're nearly finished with this scene soon, which is good, because I do want to move on to talking about other stuff, folks. I want to get this scene done and over with today, because there's other stuff to talk about. But I just want to make sure it's at a good state and we've got all that the finish framework in before we move on. We don't have to like get this part all perfect yet, but as long as we've got the base in and we've concluded it, I can think off stream for if I want for a bit more better dialogue. Okay, so the question is, shall Carol say thank you? Shall we have her look at Violet awkwardly and say thanks? I'm wondering what chat think we should make Carol do. What would be the most entertaining thing for Carol to do in this? Okay, so next bit, the last thing. Face Violet and say, hide inside, Carol. We can't let the villagers see you. Now, This would be more not good, but wise. Always wondered why the monocle. There it is. And this other one's not going to be evil. It's going to be brave. I feel like oh, there we go. I feel like the other scales, the wisdom and brave scale, are more fitting for what we're about to do here. And the other option is to, again, face Violet. But instead of telling her to hide in Carol, we will say I'm trying to get across, stick with me, you know, who cares what those villagers think, you know, you don't have to hide. Don't let fear control you without being cliche. So or stick with me, follow me, something like that, that's encouraging Violet to just boldly walk in back to Lakefall with them. And that's going to be an interesting scenario if we take that route. And of course, ultimately, we're not going to have much of a reaction from Carol here. If you say that, she's not really going to say anything really or care. But this is the big one. This is the absolute big one, because hiding inside Carol, a person being inside Carol, is Carol's worst nightmare. Remember at the start of the game when the hero was inside her and she did not like it at all? It's because of her past, when those kids were inside her parents and smashed them. It makes her fear the same thing's going to happen to her. And Zexion pointed that out and said that if we go back into the ideas discussion channel, I'll read all this after, Zexy, thanks for posting. I remember you saying, oh, that's your Cryas story as well. That's good that that's there, because that'll be really helpful when we start to develop him here. Yes, so yeah, a few times when someone does end up inside her, she goes rigid and quiet, and she has to react in a way where she just shows that she hates it so much. Like, maybe if someone suggests the hero hiding in her to sneak into the hero cave, the lizard cave, and Carol shoots it down hard. Well, you know, we're sort of doing it here instead. So this is the opportunity now for Carol to shoot it down hard and really like react as if that's not going to happen. So of course, having that freak out from Carol now will really hopefully resonate with people when they watch that flashback of when her parents got smashed, and it'll all make sense then why Carol hates people being near her, and even worse, inside her. She doesn't like people even close to her, really. That's why she gives us this sort of prudish nature, almost, because of what happened in her past. But it's one thing someone being near her, but it's another thing entirely than being inside her, and she would just freak out. So we got to figure out what sort of emotion she's going to have, whether she's going to shoot it down, panic, freak out, or whether she's going to like go super like just upset or quiet or whatever. That's something to think about. Let's catch up with Chap. And doing well, how's Rose? I'm doing decent, Draketus. And hi, Matt, how are you doing? Thank goodness someone here listens to me, we said. Oh, was that a dialogue suggestion, Matt? tell me which one you were referring to, if so, if it was. I'm assuming it was because you put the speech marks there. I apologise if I'm off track, but let me know if there was anything. And I think it's too early for her to say thank you. Maybe after they get through the lizard cave, she says thank you, maybe. Now, the lizard cave journey is going to be an interesting one because Carol's going to, the herbalist route, she's going to have to dress up as a reptile with the rest of the group for their disguise, and that's if you go down the herbalist route, because the herbalist will have the items and herbs to make that disguise, whereas if you go down the diplomat route, you'll go for a more serious and straightforward route, like cut to the chase. We'll deal with these reptiles honestly and nobly, whereas the herbalist route is more let's be sneaky. And that's probably the more humorous route as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because Carol's going to really, it's like we've got a real opportunity for comic relief. Carol dressed up as a reptile, let's face it. It's not, these reptile costumes are going to be completely unconvincing, by the way. Let's just say that. They're clearly going to look fake. They're not going to be realistic. Carol's going to literally still look like a barrel and just have a little like vine coming off behind her that's like a tail, and leaves that are like reptile wings, and she'll be painted green as well. It's going to be ridiculous. We're still doing her trauma stuff. Okay, in that case, if the player tries to put Violet inside her and it's actually Violet that Ultimate refuses, and eventually Carol realises that she refused because she knew it would be crossing Carol's boundary, and when she realises that, that's for when she thanks Violet. Alright, I'm going to have to read that again. Awesome. And yeah, but for when you ask for Carol to apologise, so she's saying thanks, but not specifically to Violet. Awesome, folks. Yeah, that's good. And I agree with you both that Carol shouldn't be saying thank you this early, and if she was to say thank you, it would be very sarcastic, or she'd be saying it in another way. So that it's not specific, or so she can avoid the apology as much as possible. So for now, I'm going to just keep it like that, but I am going to read through the VOD and reread what you've said, folks, and that'll make me be able to like put that sentence together properly. But feel free to still say your thoughts, because it all really helps for when I look back after the stream and write the dialogue. And same like with what Zexy said about Violet here. So okay, so I'd say it's end of scene at this point. Like this is the final thing in the scene, like deciding how we deal with Violet. I think we might need to expand on this a little. This stick with me section, just to kind of clarify a bit more that that's the option for if you feel Violet should just storm in like full without hiding. And I don't think we should have any reaction at that point. I think that's when the party kind of finish the scene, and you know, Violet follows you, and you're free to roam again and head to Lightfall. You have the freedom to walk again as the player. And I think same with this one, except we'll just have a few, maybe a bit more going on with Carol first, and ultimately that's going to end. Let's reread what Zexy says again. So and eventually Carol realises that she refused because she knew it would be crossing Carol's boundary when she realised. Yeah, so that's true. Violet could just be like no, or give some sort of body language indication that she's saying no. I'm trying to think how to conclude this branch though, because ultimately we do have to hide Violet in this branch, because we're going to approach main quest 3 in two different ways, one with Violet and one with a hidden, and it's kind of going to make things unfold a bit differently maybe. I mean, we could always do the easy route and just have Violet just with us no matter what, if we want to save time and save variables and branches. But I thought it'd be quite interesting to kind of write both ways. So if we're not going to have her hiding Carol, maybe we tried that first and we realised no, we won't, because it's too traumatising for Carol, and I'm not sure if that's a smart way to go, to force Rose and Carol for the story. And if that's the case, that's the other option we came up with for hiding Violet. And I guess another option for hiding Violet would be her to just stay in the Everbloom Forest, right? That's probably the easiest one. Because the villager who she'd hide in the house of, we'd have to trust, and they'd have to like us, you know, and we kind of haven't built up any relationship with any villagers yet to do that. It would just be guesswork. We'd just have to go in a stranger's house and be like, you have her in here, which could go down bad. But yeah, the easiest outcome, if we go with X's idea, which makes sense, I feel like it would be nicer to Carol and more compassionate and probably less controversial if we respect her boundaries and go with that, and then be like, oh, okay, then you can just hide here behind this tree. Oh god, but if the fruits were alive, like if you'd spared the fruits and you just let Violet stay there, they'd come after her again. So that's another thing too. Like, if we want to avoid plot hole, realistically we do have to keep Violet safe, because she is being chased by a bunch of dangerous fruits, and if you've killed them it's fine, but if you haven't, it would kind of be like, wow, you're leaving her here, they could just come back for her. And I just kind of think Carol's relationship with Violet should be a little mini arc for episode 1, so by the end of the episode, Carol has learned to trust and respect Violet, but is starting to prove her belief wrong. It builds towards a larger series-wide character arc, but is still satisfying for a single instalment. So most of my suggestions will be going towards this kind of quest goal. Yeah, I think ultimately episode 1, we need to kind of see that spark of hope. Even though it's not a fantasy fairy tale ending, because you know, the reptiles and humans aren't going to be living in harmony, that's for sure. It's all or nothing. It's, you know, you got to just pick sort of, or not pick, and see the chaos unfold. But in each of the character arcs, we need to see that kind of spark of hope. Even if Carol's not like fully like enlightened yet, like she's definitely not the best person she can be by the end of episode 1. She's still got a lot of stuff still in her that is difficult for her to change due to her experiences, but there's definitely positive things that we're going to be seeing, like her potentially thanking the party and stopping calling them flashbacks and crunchers and whatever, and even her showing vulnerability to the hero. Maybe we should have a little conversation with Carol where she opens up to us about her family and what they're like, because that could help like make us warm to the Barrel characters as well, like her telling us a story about Meryl growing up, or something like that, or Oliver, or any of the others, or all of them even. We could have some choices and we say, tell us about Oliver, or tell us about Hank, or tell us about Meryl, and it could just be like this little low-key conversation where we sit in away somewhere with Carol in a downtime moment in the game where there's no, like, when the tension's kind of gone down a bit, which is kind of going to be main quest 3 before we head to the cave. That'll be the downtime moment. But yes, okay folks, so I'm gonna, before we move on to the second task of the day, because we could easily spend the rest of the stream thinking of the perfect dialogue for this, but I'm thinking I'm gonna just put in brackets right now what we're trying to get at. Carol should react badly to this idea and Violet will refuse. The party will come up with a plan B on how to hide Violet. So if anyone has any really smart ideas about how to hide Violet that isn't hiding inside Carol, we'll have tried that but it wouldn't have worked, then feel free to let us know. So far we've got have her hide in a villager's house, or have her hide in somewhere in the Everbloom Forest, where probably she's not going to get caught by the fruits if that's possible. And the other option is just have her come with the party anyway and just stick with the one linear branch where Violet will always be in Lakefall no matter what. But I wanted to like explore the idea of having two versions of how to go back to Lakefall. One where Violet's with us and one where Violet's hidden. But feel free to say and I'll mull over it over the weekend. But we've sort of got in what we need to do. This will be the last part of the scene. Once we've dealt with what we're going to do with Violet, we'll have the freedom to walk again and go back to Lakefall. And then we can have in brackets here, Carol avoids saying thank you. And I'll reread the VOD to see what you guys have suggested regarding that part as well. But ultimately, Carol's awkwardness in this bit will lead to dealing with what we should do to Violet. And then that's it. It's a bit messy there, but I'll tidy it up over the weekend. But really after that, once we've filled in those boxes and tidied them up, we've finished main quest 2, kind of. I mean, we're still gonna have the quest in our quest log, and we won't fully have completed it until we return to Lakefall and actually gone back to Fiona, because she's the person we've got to hand the quest back into because she gave it to us. But really all the actual main scenes are done now, because really once we've gone back to Lakefall, it's going to finish main quest 2 quite fast, possibly, and trigger the next main quest, which is the 3rd, which we aren't having in the first playable build. We won't have main quest 3 content until the 2nd playable build. Where is the location they are doing in this scene? Oh, what I've recently done, folks, if you look in the lore bible you'll see on the embed, but I've very recently added the location of where all the scenes take place. So if you look, it's Ancient Overlook, where in Everbloom Forest, where the whole fruit sequence happens. So the place where the easel is and where we met the fruits, it's the 6th map in the Everbloom Forest that we designed. So as you can see, I've filled that in. I think that's much easier to know the locations of scenes. Question mark on that one because it's a farmland that we haven't yet named, where it was Carol's flashback. So yes. We've got the reptile painting. We've also got the map that needs to be given to Fiona as well that Apples gave us, that will lead us to the secret grove of trees, which was part of the trade deal that the fruits promised Fiona. So are we ready to get to the juicy stuff, guys? I mean, feel free to still give your thoughts on this dialogue if you want. Just because I'm moving on to something else now doesn't mean that this sequence and this scene has to end at this discussion, because I'll be reading it after stream anyway, and anything that you guys say here will help me form the proper first draft version off stream. But we've kind of done the foundation of the scene now, and I wanted to do something else for you guys before we finish today. I need to get down something. So where is it? There it is. And this is going to what I'm planning to do is just very clarify and very link up together all the events that we have decided so far, so we can be super cohesive and stuff. And I've got a few thoughts as well, particularly about Nigel and Fiona. One sec though. And Fiona's already back home, yeah, then she could hide in the lake house, not cage this time. So basically, since she can't go to town, why not have her wait where we are talking to her? Well, the only risk of her waiting here in Ancient Overlook is this is where the fruits were. So we know how desperate they are for vampire blood, right? And we know that they're going to conquer Lake for once they get that vampire that's in the cave that we potentially can let loose. So really leaving Rose on the loose here is putting her at great danger. And if we've kept the fruits alive, that is, if we killed them, then it's moot, it's irrelevant. Rose can do whatever she pleases, she's no longer, Violet can do whatever she pleases, she's not in danger anymore. But if, we've spared them, we kind of we would be really putting her at risk, because realistically the fruits, as fearsome as they are, they're not, even though they're fruits, they're not stupid. They would be hiding, ready to pounce, and they'll have that vampire blood. And it's kind of like, oops, shouldn't have left Violet. Maybe with Zexy, if we go elsewhere in the Everbloom Forest that's far away from the fruits, we'd have to have something convincing that was safe for Violet. Otherwise, it's it's kind of like, but can't the fruit just get her now? And why not just dress up in costume and take her to town? That's another option too. Disguise. I mean, the only reason why I might not go for a disguise, I do like it, is because we're doing that story in the next quest. We're going for a reptile disguise sort of theme trope plot point in main quest 3 and onwards. So to avoid being repetitive and having the same themes, kind of would get rid of the shock value, I suppose, of dressing up as reptiles if we've already gone for the dressing up theme. But I do love the idea. I think it to totally work, but I tend to like want to avoid repetition in story elements. But feel free to suggest, even if it's later on, it doesn't even have to be in this stream. Even if it's, over the weekend or whenever. We'll get our heads together and think of it. You can still suggest in the stream though, if you wish, if anything springs to mind. I mean, we've already had a few thoughts. And hi Rod, did I say hi? I hope I did. Staying warm. Yeah, I'm not too cold today. I'm doing all right. Hi Ghosty, how you doing? Look at that Meryl Winky emote Ghosty's using. How are you doing, Ghosty? It's awesome to see you. How have you been? Happy New Year, Ghosty. How are things going? And then if you want to have it become really interesting, if they choose a path that crosses the lookalike person, that person can call her out. And if the fruits knew where the lake house is, why would Fiona need to transport Violet to the fruit? Why wouldn't they just have come and collected her themselves? That's true. So really going by that, it's like saying that the lake house is a safe place for Violet to be, because otherwise the fruits would have gone there in the first place. I guess it was because they're far away. It was quite a bit of a trek, and there was a lot of enemies in between on the road, a lot of monsters that have come to life from the forest, like Stumpy and a few other creatures roaming about. So it's kind of risky for the fruits to sort of be travelling that far, because they're not that strong. Not yet anyway. They want to be strong once they've got this vampire blood, but they're not at that level yet. So it's risky for the fruits to travel too far. So really, I think as long as she wasn't on the Ancient Overlook map, it would be okay. I think we could go with that. We'd just be a little bit, we'd be putting her at danger if we had Violet on the Ancient Overlook map. And stay warm, have a pleasant weekend if possible. You too, Rod. I hope that you have a nice weekend too. Few hours to focus on other things. Oh, what's Mystery 3 of the year? I'm intrigued now. Mysteries are interesting. All right, folks. Thanks for the chats about the conclusion of this scene. There's definitely a lot to think about, and it's all very cool. And I think we're very close now. As you can see, there's only a few dialogue boxes to tidy up now before we're finished. I think really good progress with the rest of the scene now. And if you want to look over that chat, if you want to have a nosy, the Law Bible command, !law, will in the story section will let you see this on an embed. So it's literally just the very tail end of this scene that has to be tidied up now. But here we are. I wanted to finish the stream week, just discussing this, because our other objective before we get into remaking the scenes, like implementing them in RPG Maker properly and doing test plays and actually looking at them. I'm really excited to do those scenes, by the way, because we'll have content finally and we can start doing screenshot Saturdays again. And there's a lot to do. Look at all this juicy Carol scene that we've got to implement, because all we've got at the moment is just like the first 2 dialogue boxes since we really expanded this scene just before Christmas. But I'm not 100% happy with all the scenes just yet, particularly the ones involving Nigel and Fiona. The other scenes, the ones with Carol, I'd say are really like at a decent quality for the first playable build now. But the ones with Fiona and Nigel need to be just analysed and just a once over, just to make sure they're in character, because right now there's things that aren't in character. This Violet business with the flower needs changing. We're no longer going to have Fiona be the one that names Violet. What's going to happen is there'll be wanted posters of Violet around. Naturally, I love the idea of having wanted posters about, because not only does it flesh the world out, and I love like looking at things. I love looking at news clippings and posters and reading books in games. I want to kind of make Raindrop Chronicles that kind of RPG where you can like investigate almost and get that reward for being an explorer, where you get a bit of more understanding of the world and what the place you're in and the people living in it. So I figured wanted posters of her would be pretty cool, and it would almost be like almost propaganda, like villainising her, making her out to be this monster that needs to be captured immediately. And that would be how Violet knows about, Fiona knew about Violet because of the posters. So when the fruits make that deal with her and they're like, can you trade us the vampire for this? And Fiona immediately will know what they're talking about because of all the posters over town, and there'll be a rough description of Violet, and she would have found her because Fiona's pretty able, she's pretty street smart, so it didn't take Fiona long to capture her. And but this is why we're doing a timeline, so we can get events down and get thoughts together on a few things. And hello, Happy New Year, I'm doing okay, how are you? I'm doing decently, Ghosty, doing the best we all can in these times, but it's lovely to see you. It's been so long. I've met Ghosty in real life, everybody. Shocker. But I hope things are okay over where you are. And Cat Amongst the Pigeons. Oh, is that a spoopy mystery, Rod? Is it scary? Glad you're all okay and the weekend is super good. Yeah, hope you are too. Okay. So I've got a few thoughts to get in here now. I'm going to get them in very rough first before we get a really tidy timeline. This is going to be a pretty rough timeline. When it's like neatened up a bit though, I'll probably put it into the World Anvil Lore Bible that we've got. Similar to how we did the Carol's timeline maybe. But for now, we're going to just get rough ideas down. So I'm getting, we'll have a what we know section first before we jump into the actual timeline. So this is all post main quest 1 scene 1 stuff. This is all stuff that happened before we've been thrown into the game. So we need to get everything down so we can make a sort of history for it and make it make sense. So decides to go out and go into the forest and have words with them. Well, actually, now there's a big question here which I'm going to get into in a sec, guys, and I had some pretty interesting ideas. It's all about how Nigel met the fruits in the first place. There's someone who's so fearful and an indoors person such as himself. How would he have met them? Well, I've got a couple of ideas, so don't you worry, chat, and I'm curious what you think of those, but we'll talk about them in a sec. But I think the things I've thought of are pretty really interesting and ways for it to flow and make sense as best as possible. So but before we get into that, I'm going to just talk about Fiona and the relationship she has with the fruits. They tell Fiona they will stop bullying the fruits. Not bullying him, bullying him if she finds the vampire on those wanted posters for them. Because it's kind of all about the town, you know. The fruits have probably seen this person and like, perfect, we've got our vampire that we need. They just need someone to get them for them. And catch on Monday. Everything done over the weekend is super enjoyable. Yeah, see you Monday, Rod. And we'll be sending you a very belated ebook as a birthday gift, guys. Oh, I'm curious about that. Curious about what that ebook is. And Southern California is kind of a disaster. Still not as bad as Florida though. But after international travel is safe again, I'm actually going to be heading out into your general direction for a bit. Ooh, yeah, it'd be really nice once we're all free to travel again, because I miss Rex, and you know, I just miss being able to go over as well. And see you as well, of course. And yeah, it's crazy here in England as well at the moment. It's the worst it's ever been. And it could be interesting if Root were expecting the vampire in the lizard cave and don't know about Violet until she's brought to them. And Fiona mistook their request for vampires being about Violet. That way the fruit now know about both vampires. Ooh, interesting. I do like that idea. It's an interesting like little twist. I'm just wondering how we'd get that across, because although it seemed interesting, I don't want to risk the dialogue getting convoluted or confusing for us, because we as the player don't know about that vampire in the cave yet, so it could perplex us if otherwise. I guess it depends how it's written, you know, and how we go about it. Something like that would have to be handled a certain way for it to all fit and for all the pieces to make sense. But it definitely is intriguing. I'm curious how we could go about that. But we'll think from a straightforward perspective right now, with it without any twists and turns along the way. But of course, if you've got any thoughts, feel free to expand in the ideas channel if you wish, though, if there's anything in particular. Okay, so Another reason I like the wanted posters idea though with Violet is because us as the player would get to look at that poster, and then it's always really intriguing when you get this perception of something and got in your head about something, and then you finally meet them and they're different to what they're actually really like. It fits with the whole Roots and Rumours title of episode 1 and the themes we're going for about people being misunderstood and from how they're made out to be. That's very kind of how it is with the reptiles in this game, in this episode, should I say. But it could be like it with Violet too, to a smaller degree for a singular character. There's propaganda, horrible things about her said that are twisted and not true on that poster, when really in reality she's as docile as a mouse. And we'll come to that conclusion when we see her in the cave, and Fiona would probably, I'm imagining Fiona saying something like, she's not like, she's more of a chicken than a wolf, like because Fiona's obviously seen those posters too, and she's kind of realising that Violet's not tough at all, and she'll say that when we're in the cabin. She'll be like, she's not as dangerous as they're made out to be. And I feel like she needs to be sort of knowledge about the town, like people know this vampire, but they just don't really know her because they've never seen her. They've just heard what's been said on the posters. But of course, when they finally met her, that's what Fiona's kind of going to find it a bit oddly amusing that it was all so untrue. And that's going to be because we says we needed that trigger, that reason for why Carol needs to realise that Violet isn't a threat, because otherwise it's like, well, why is Carol bullying Violet if Violet's this ferocious vampire? And that was one thing we realised, that we need to make it clear that Violet is very soft natured and kind of not that as powerful as led on to believe. And 2 of my friends have barely been able to leave their flats. It took them 3 months to get a care package. I know, right? I haven't left my room for, oh my god, I can't even think. Well, I've left my room but not my house. I've just not been outside in forever, and I'm a hermit, so that's not weird for me, but I still go out even when I've been a hermit, but I've just not been out at all. I'm a total vampire now, even paler than before. And the next bit, but I do, thinking about what Zexy said again, I do kind of like the idea of a foreshadowing of that vampire. The one in the cave, so that it's not a complete, so that we're like, oh, when we finally do see it, so that's what they were talking about, or that's what it said. I do like the idea of sort of foreshadowing that vampire exists, even subtly. But we'll think, because there's a couple of other thoughts I've got. In a second I'll get them down. So Fiona agrees to, I can't spell, agrees to find the vampire and hand her over, but says that is not enough. They also need to give the location of wild fruit trees, secret wild fruit trees, which are where they were born. Apple and Lemon were clearly born in this secret grove. So that's how they'd know the location, because it was born there. But the residents of Lightfall don't have a clue where this place is, and they I've not even spelled Fiona right. What the hell is that? But there's a motive, and the residents of Lakefall are very desperate for produce right now because of what's happening in the forest. There's a lot of them out, like the people that import food there are fearful of the village and the area, so they're avoiding the place, like trade routes and that's causing Lakefall to not get the goods that they want, and it would make them really desperate for this food. Fiona's doing this for the person that runs the tavern. I feel like giving this secret wild fruit trees plot point to the tavern keeper would kind of spread out give like other NPCs a bit of a story then. Like, let's not just give the lot of it to Fiona. But I'd say that Fiona's had a conversation with this tavern keeper, and that's why she's kind of thought, yeah, I'll say this too. But we'll get that clear in a sec as well. But so the tavern keeper can have fresh produce. They agree, but only once they have the vampire. Now, that's why, you know, it's a good job I kind of thought of that, because otherwise we wouldn't have got that in the scene with Apple giving the map to the player. But that's what that's all about. It's going to be you know, the keeping the word, because that's the map to the secret grave. Now, that's all going to link to some like sort of side thing that could be very interesting that we discussed during the story suggested on streams with those fruits, and that's going to come in at some point for discussion even more again. But Apple wouldn't. These fruits are going to be poisoned with really nasty side effects. I'll just say that. But Apple wouldn't have known. Apple probably thought he was doing a good thing and that the fruits were fine. But it's the other fruits that would have put the side effects in them. And when Apple finds out, he probably gets a bit, but he will find out, because Father Maple's going to murder him first. Because Apple will be getting in their way, and yeah, sadly Apple will probably get murdered by Father Maple. It's sad, but it has to. Spoilers. And hi Sorta, how are you doing? It's good to see you, and thank you for the follow. Okay, I appreciate that. Basically my idea is just the fruit ask for a vampire, and there's a miscommunication about which vampire is being talked about. Fiona only knows about Violet, the fruit know about the cave shenanigans and shit. Yeah, I do. It's an interesting one, and I do definitely like it, because it gives it the opportunity for a little foreshadowing there, so that it's not just thrown on us when we go in that cave and see the vampire. We're not like, what the hell's this all of a sudden? We kind of have been clued in on about it, even subtly earlier on, and I think that's always kind of nice. So we'll think about that for sure. So if so, we can just change the wording of that a bit. But let's get a bit of other information in. Okay, so the other thing is, before we move on to anything else, is this key bullet point. Now, can we do something where we make more bullet points? How do we do that thing where you can do bullet points within bullet points? There we go. I think this is it. And we might make this text a bit smaller, as this is, or we can just unbold it. Okay. Right, info on Nigel now. Okay. Now this might go on a bit now, because we have to build the history between Nigel and these fruits. And I'll tell you my thoughts, folks. I'm interested in what you think now. But my first idea on how we would even find out the history between Nigel and the fruits, considering all this happened pre-game, is that Nigel could have a diary somewhere in the inn that the player could pick up and read. Now, I think he's the kind of character that would have a diary, being someone who's got PTSD and like trauma from his past, and he struggles to sleep and focus on his work because of all the stuff going on in his head, his anxiety. He would probably get all those thoughts down on paper, especially if he's that bookish person. He's called Nigel Bookington, so again, it's a sort of play on his name. And it's a way to kind of, this is an optional thing for us to read, like it wouldn't be forced for us to read it, it'd just be lying there in the inn as an optional thing for us to read, and it's like giving us a sneaky insight into Nigel's dealings and what things have been like for him. And we could say okay, so he writes in it, well, he could write in it to have in it as a way to help deal with his anxiety. And if we want to, I mean, if there's anything that we feel can't be revealed, we could always say maybe a page is ripped out to cover info we aren't yet meant to say. I don't know whether there would be anything we're not meant to know, but say if we end up writing this diary entry of Nigel's and we're like, well, we can't let the player know that that's not meant, then we can just like do a weird thing where we sort of rip it out or give the impression that it's been ripped out to cover up any information we don't want anybody knowing about yet. So we could at this point, one thing we could do is title this Nigel's Diary. Now we're going to write Nigel's Diary chat. Okay. Now, the purpose of this diary, the main purpose, is to kind of build this relationship and history of the fruits with Nigel and foreshadow them, potentially in the first 5 minutes of the game, because we can walk in this inn immediately. As soon as we've got the freedom to walk as the player, we can go into this inn before we even get main quest 1. That diary can be there for us to see, and we can get sort of hints about this, the fruits being an antagonist, well before we fight them as a first boss. But it's going to just clue us into the fact that he's being bullied and there's a connection there. And I think it's an interesting way to do it, rather than spell it out in dialogue and Nigel just say to the player, oh, I'm getting bullied by these fruits, and oh, they did this, and oh, this is how I met them, and oh, this is what they did to me the first time I met them. It's doing it in a more it's revealing this information in a more intriguing way, rather than just like a vomit of words in a conversation, which I always feel like vomit of characters giving us like backstory vomit is unrealistic for a start, because that we're a stranger to them. So I figure a diary is, because it's so appropriate for Nigel, could be a way to do it. So okay, so we don't know dates right now, so I'm going to just put question mark of the question mark, because we haven't done the world building of Raindrop Chronicles' calendar yet. I'd really like to at some point now do a calendar and think of months and how our calendar's going to work, folks. We'd like a calendar world building stream in the near future. Okay, so for now I will just put that, considering we don't have a calendar. But my sister left again. This is going to be very rough, this Nigel's diary at the moment. We can get more into his tone of voice after, but we're going to just get down the essentials of what's gone on in Nigel's life. We sort of write his backstory here, and it's going to help us put all the pieces together and every information and knowledge that we need to make sure that everything Nigel says and everything Fiona says is consistent. So I needed to distract myself, so I started painting where there was a nice view. This is worded really bad, but I'll just get it all down. And thank you PW for that follow, I appreciate it. Did we have another alert come up? I swear I saw a host alert, but I hate how Twitch doesn't show my hosts. No, I can't thank the people that host me. Boo. Okay, so now this is all new stuff, but it'll all make sense in a sec. Yeah, Nigel Painter, well, but not too deep into the forest. So I'm going to just get tiled up so we can see the map of Lightfall, so you can just get an idea of where I'm talking about here. So I can pinpoint where Nigel will be standing, because Nigel's scared. He's fearful. He's not going to leave Lightfall town. He'd never step into Everbloom Forest, but he's going to want to get some fresh air now and again, and get some, especially when he's going through all this stress with his sister, and he needs hobbies to distract himself. So he's probably going to go out into Lightfall, go somewhere with a nice view, but not somewhere that's too deep into the forest. So this is our map, folks, of the Everbloom Forest and Lightfall so far. As you can see, there's 7 maps here. In Playable Build 1 that we'll be releasing early this year, we're only going to have these 7 maps in, but the intention is, over time, as we make more main quests and more side quests, to slowly have build this on this map, so we've got more content and more juicy forest areas in episode 1. One thing I'm pretty sure of is that Lightfall, which is at current just this map, will be expanded. We're going to have a back edge of Lightfall and a left, right, well, west and east, should I say, sections of Lightfall, which really are the areas that the villagers can go up to kind of chill, to rest, and there'll be like washing lines here and hammocks and leisure time, so they can just chill away from the place of business, because this is just where all the shops are, really. So I figured that Nigel, if he was chilling, he'd be here. He'd be somewhere on this map here that's currently grey, because it's still in Lightfall. They'd just like have ladders or little stairs that they'd walk up to get here. And the reason why this is the perfect location is because, look, this is ancient Ivel, where the fruits hang out, which means the fruits aren't that far from Lightfall at all. They're literally just next door. They're just literally south of Lightfall, this area of Lightfall anyway, that we're going to expand on. Which means it's very, very believable that the fruits and Nigel would have crossed paths, despite them seeming so far away at this moment in time. They're actually not. So, because of that, I thought of the idea of this. The second I looked away, a group of fruits stole my paint brushes and canvas from right under my nose. Now, how on earth do I say this? The Decavigions have come to life. Zexion's reference. I don't know if Zex is still here, but a while ago, we decided that this was going to be a name that the fruits were going to be referred to by, and we haven't yet mentioned this for a very long time. But Nigel's the perfect character to call them this because he's very intellectual. He's artistic. He's a guy of culture, I'd say. He's posh. He's got good vocabulary. He likes reading. He likes writing. He likes the arts. That's kind of why I think he's fitting as a painter as well, or has at least as a hobby as painting, because he's not going to just be standing in the inn all day. What life is that? People have hobbies. NPCs have hobbies too. So if you don't know, I've completely murdered the spelling of that word. Completely murdered the spelling of it. I was weirdly thinking, oh my goodness, what could Nigel call the fruits? Because just saying the fruits is a little bit boring, if you ask me. And Nigel, as a man of a culture, could totally bring this reference up. It's a famous painting of a bowl of fruits, and we had a poll and it won the poll. It was popular. People liked it. They liked the link between the bowl of fruits and I'm gonna get it up now. I'm just trying to find it. Bowl of fruits. It's a pretty famous painting, right? Here we go. There it is. It's the works of Caravaggio. Have I said it wrong? Yeah, he's the artist. And it's just a silly reference. And a lot of people might not click. A lot of people playing the game might not get the reference, but for those that do, I think they're going to have a bit of a giggle. And because I like this, because it's so fitting for Nigel. If it was an uncultured character saying this, or someone like Carol who really shouldn't have any knowledge of this kind of thing, it might be a bit jarring. But Nigel and the kind of character we're building, with him being like a bit of a rambler, a bit of a posh British guy with a very wordy, poetic, almost poetic kind of vocabulary, very well-mannered chap. It's perfect for him. So he's gonna say that in his diary. They've come to life. They stole my paints. They said they needed something to do because they were bored. Maybe they were bored. I feel like they have to say something cheeky to him and be like, well, we need this more than you. But this is cool because, this is the start of them bullying Nigel, them stealing his things, it's giving a purpose for why Fiona makes this deal with him in the first place, because Nigel's getting bullied. And it gives them a reason for having the canvas and paintbrush in the first place, because otherwise it's like, well, how did they find that? Where did that come from? Did it just magically appear out of the earth? But naturally, it makes sense that it did belong to someone who lives in Lakefall, and they did nick it with them being the cheeky, mischievous antagonists that they are. But there's more to this. That was back when I still thought this was going to be a kids game, but I figured it'd be a neat educational. You thought it was going to be a kids game. Just imagine the naked barrel scene. What would the kids think of that? Well, it's already naked barrel. Yeah. In all honesty though, I like the references, and it was very well liked. Funnily enough, it was very popular, and that even surprised me, because we had a poll of like 10 ideas for the fruits names. We had some like really funny ones as well, but yeah, that one came out on top, and I was like, wow, people really do like that reference, don't they? And it had like 10 votes or something, which was pretty good. There was another one, Round Bottom Boys, that was very amusing. I think that was Rex's idea, Round Bottom Boys. I feel like if there was a bit more of a thievy, sort of cheeky character learning like Fall almost as an NPC, that's what they'd refer to the fruits as. Or even Fiona could refer to them as that. Someone who's more cheeky in personality might go, oh God, so those round bottom boys have been bullying you again, or something like that. I could imagine Fiona saying that to Nigel. Not those round bottom boys again. Because I do like some of those things on the poll that was entertaining. I kind of want to give a call out to them. In as nicknames that certain NPCs can refer to them as, because it just gives a bit more personality. If it's in fitting with the character's persona, then for sure. When my sister returned, she asked and it was you, where my paintings were, but I didn't tell her what happened because I was ashamed. This is going to be worded much better in reality when we write Nigel's diary, but let's just get the story down first. I saw her talking to the tavern owner. They told my sister that they desperately need more produce. They are running out of things to eat because nobody wants to send their goods to Lake Fall anymore. I'm hungry. I've got some snack. I've got some chocolate still in my stocking, my Christmas stocking. Okay, so that ultimately that journal entry is for the purpose of showing, Fiona was talking to the tavern keeper. It helps just tie that in a little bit rather than it being just completely random. That's the reason why Fiona asks, as we say here, why Fiona persuades the fruits to also give them that location, because she's killing two birds with one stone. She's not only stopping her brother getting bullied, but she's helping them get more food too, which is going to lead to good things, she thinks. Maybe not. Okay, now the next journal entry. My sister left again. Fiona leaves a lot, but this diary is another way to show that Fiona's constantly leaving the village, and obviously when we're given this quest to find Fiona, we're going to get, if we look at this journal, we'll get a bit more insight, that she's always leaving. This isn't the first time. My sister left again. Now I have to do those blasted chores. Is blasted a word a posh person would use? I'm trying to think in Nigel's voice. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good curse word like damn, but for more of a really posh person or well-mannered guy like Nigel. I went... Well, basically he goes to the same area again. That area that I showed you, folks, it's currently a grey rectangle. That's going to be where Lightfall's expanded. He'll go there again, and he's going to hang his blankets out, and he's going to bump into the fruit. Well, the fruits are going to come up to him again. It's just so convenient because it's so close. It's not too far from, you know, disbelief to believe that they would have gone up there, considering you know, the location is so close. Because otherwise you'd be like, how did the fruits get there? They made Fiona like trek to give them the vampire, but yet it's the next map, so you know, it makes it a bit more convincing at least. So it's worked out quite nicely there. I went to the west. We'll say that here. Painting to the west of Lightfall. Okay, so he goes to the west side of Lightfall again. And started hanging the blankets, the bed sheets out to dry. Now it's all very fitting because being an innkeeper, him and Fiona would probably have to do this. It just makes the characters feel a bit more real, them doing these chores, and it kind of also might give us a little clue that we can take one of the bed sheets for ourselves, because that's going to come in during the Stumpy quest. So weirdly, but it is. You can steal a blanket. And the fruit, well, as Nigel calls them, he doesn't call them the fruits, he calls them the Decarvigonians. And when we read this diary, because we'll be able to get our hands on this diary as early as the first second in the game, right? You know, as soon as we can walk and go in the inn, we can read this and be like, what are they? And it's kind of like only people who get the reference or make the connection, and they probably still won't even make the connection then until they actually see the basket of fruits. Appeared again and stole my basket. They said they needed somewhere to sleep. Right, so that's how they got the basket. It's Nigel's basket. It's actually not a fruit basket, it's a blanket basket where they keep all their blankets in the inn. Now, it'll make sense now that when we make the interiors of the inn to add a few of those baskets, those same baskets with blankets in them, because then we've got that connection, right, with the fruits and the inn. And I wonder if people would be smart enough who haven't followed the streams that play the game to like notice. So yeah, that's I wanted really Nigel's like backstory of him getting bullied by the fruits to connect as much as possible to the facts that we've already got and what we know, and things that flowed and made sense with the story that weren't too out there. and linking them like coming to steal his things, and like the canvas, the paints, the basket, which is items they somehow magically got. It gives a reason for that now, how they got them. They belong to Nigel, and they were able to steal them because the map itself, Ancient Overlook, where they hang out, is not far away at all from where Lakefall is. And that was just coincidence. Luckily for me, I designed a map that put Ancient Overlook very close to the expanded area of Lakefall that I wanted to make. Just coincidence. Otherwise, if it wasn't like that, I'd like to have thought something else. Now, question mark of the question mark day. I couldn't keep it inside any longer. When I told people, when I told people, they said I was seeing things, which is kind of likely that people would think we're seeing things. Imagine if you was like, I just saw like a bunch of like living fruits, stole my blanket, stole my basket. People would think it was crazy. And again, we're bringing in that denial of the Lakefall citizens believing that things in the forest are coming to life. But I'm curious what you guys think, like especially like particularly what sort of interactions the fruits would have with Nigel when they steal his stuff, because we want it to be a funny scene if we can, like amusing as possible. I mean, even though like this is just a written diary and we're not actually doing an actual scene of it, it's still interesting to still build and think of how it could have all went down. My sister believed me though, because that helps. That shows they've got a good relationship. But she trusts him and doesn't just accuse him of the same thing the others accuse him of. And then the last day of Nigel's diary, maybe, unless anyone else can think of anything else cool to fit into Nigel's past. My sister has been gone all day. She said she would take care of Did you dare me? Those round bottom boys. I don't know. If I feel like that should be what she should call them, whether we put it as the diary entry or insert it into dialogue elsewhere, you know, I'll put it in for jokes. They are round bottom boys though, aren't they? Look at them. They're all boys as well, so you know, they have round butts. Thanks to Rex, that is. People will be like, what? Round bottom boys? How are you? But will make sense when we see them. Okay, okay, so I think is there anything else, or have I got the main stuff in now? Okay, another thing we could add is she is convinced our parents She's convinced our parents are still alive and are somewhere in the forest. Because that was another thing that we mentioned, wasn't it? That could have been an excuse. Well, it's not so much her real motive. It's literally just an excuse for why she can go in the forest when people tell her off. She'd just be like, they're still there. So there we go. I think like we've built it up to a point where the events make sense, and then we've kind of, we can see like we can get what's going on now. We won't have plot holes hopefully, because otherwise if we didn't like plan that, we'll have never known how Nigel and the Fruits met. And we wouldn't have known all those like details in between that those things belong to Nigel. And it's going to just help us like be able to understand these characters better. Okay, so back to the scene. We'll start with Nigel's scene then, before we go to Fiona's. Okay, so this next week, in case some of you don't know, which I've talked about a few times now, we're going to actually get started on implementing the scene work next week. Get these expanded scenes put in, and obviously we're going to start with Carol's, this very opening scene, because there's a lot of expansion to have on it now. But this scene's pretty good, I think, at this point. That one's fine, but the one we do need to look at is this one. So let's get through it then. So, oh thank goodness, someone has finally walked in here. I need your help. I guess my little sister hasn't come home. I'm going crazy standing here. I tried to find her myself, but I can't leave this inn unattended. So, looking at his diary, is this voice of this man here consistent with the man that's written the diary? I think that this first line, absolutely, he'd be relieved that someone's walked in, because someone can help him now find his sister. Should we get Nigel's character arc up as well? To just reread what we've got here for him. Yeah, I want you to find my sister and bring her home. He's dissatisfied with his life because he's always left to managing on his own, which makes him feel troubled and restless. Being alone makes him think of all the terrible things that have happened. He fears his sister will get herself killed and leave him to suffer on his own. Don't know what I'd do without her. So when he sees you, he's going to obviously feel really happy because someone can help him not have to suffer anymore and could potentially get his sister back. So I think that's absolutely good, fine. I need your help on a guest. My little sister hasn't come home. I'm going crazy standing here, but I tried to find her myself, but can't leave this inn unattended. That I think is fine. It gives the impression that it's the first time this girl has gone missing, right? Doesn't it? Like, she's literally genuinely missing and lost. So you're not going to actually realise there's more to this. And this is just a rebellious girl that's always leaving, and not someone who's, like, you know, you're vulnerable damsel in distress that you'd think she's actually perfectly able. But you wouldn't get that impression from Nigel here. You only would get the full picture if you read the diary. So I know the questions. She went to Evelyn Vice to pick some flowers. She said the lake near the cabin has the prettiest ones. Now, obviously, we need to sort of link Fiona's location to the lake near the cabin, because that is where she is. But I was thinking, is there a better reason for why Fiona's gone there? She's not a girly girl, she's a tomboy. So she wouldn't like pretty flowers, Fiona, no. So I'm thinking, yeah, maybe that needs a little adjustment to something that's more fitting with Fiona. 2 hours, I know this isn't very long, but the forest is becoming more dangerous. So that's fine. 12, she's the second youngest video. I couldn't forgive myself if anything happened to her. I don't think that's a fact anymore, that she's the second youngest, because I think we've since populated Lake 4 with plenty of children. The people involved in the death of Carol's parents are children. And there's going to be plenty of children in general, so that might need a slight edit too. You're such a brave soul. Travelling to forest is all that's happening recently. Many close to stay in our beds, our son shaking the streets at the thought of my truly deepest respect. How rude and romantic and Nigel. This is no Fiona. Have a conversation, bring her home, ever so grateful. And we can always change the word in this diary to Fiona rather than my sister, a bit more personal then as well. Considering we know her name, that's fine, we'll get the connection. So yeah, the scene overall is okay, just a couple of adjustments, particularly in the question box here, but the main dialogue branch is totally good. This Carol dialogue is fine as well. Okay, now the Fiona dialogue. I love watching fish swim, it's so peaceful. Now, this is a great scene because it connects really, it's so funny, the whole will you like to join falls into lake, look shocked, great. I was just thinking, we could always expand it so we keep on the topic of the fish, because it links too well to not have now at this point. But have it so it links more with Fiona's spunky personality. I don't know if Fiona cares about things that are peaceful, in all honesty, but maybe she does. Maybe that's a reason for her love for Wanderlust, games and peace. Depends. We need to really think more about why she loves the Wanderlust. And are you the innkeeper sister? Your brother sent me to find you. I'm not the innkeeper sister, I'm the innkeeper, I'm fine. But if he wants to worry, let him. Okay, so that gives us the fact that, yeah, she's a real innkeeper. Now, I do like the I'm fine, but if he wants to worry, let him lie, because it shows that she's no pushover, right? But I think the diary entry proves that she cares about her brother and the fact that, she's doing this whole thing for him in the first place, but she's probably a bit peed off that he sent some rando to go find her. That's understandable. My apologies, you clearly look after yourself. You think keep a tiny sprog like you. Looks angry. Yes, I tell my brother to spend more time worrying about his job and less about my safety. Yeah, that's all fine. So the lake scene itself was fine. It's more the cabin scene that needs the edit. And this is the last scene of main quest 1 now. Watch out, that creature in the cage is dangerous. Okay, so this all needs a complete rewrite. As you can see, because she's not going to hiss. The woman in the cage is going to be more docile now, and these boxes will be changed into something that makes it seem like she's more helpless, and that's going to get changed as well. We're not having her be named after the flower because of Fiona. But what about this? Vagabond Dog, thank you so much for the raid, my friends. How are you doing? How was the stream? How did it go today? Tell us what you did, and we'll see what you usually play your game, don't you, at first, and then you do your game dev after. Let's have a look. Oh, you was doing your game dev stuff today, this early? Awesome. Good. Just taking a break from the game jam. Be back soon. Awesome. Thanks so much for sending your community over. And hi Coda Pill. Hi Jane. How are you guys doing? No games today. Only game jam. Are we allowed to know? Are we allowed to know the game? Or is it a secret? I'm going to be looking anyway. I'll be looking at the VOD and spying to see what it is. How is it? How was it? Feel free to tell us what you was up to. But hi everybody. For curious what I'm doing, we're just finalising the dialogue once and for all for main quest 1 and 2, and next week we're going to be opening RPG Maker up for the first time in a while again and actually getting these scenes put in. A lot of them are already in the game, but we've done a rework of a lot of these scenes and done some scene expansions, so we're going to have to expand those scenes to our new vision. They're much more improved to how they used to be because we've been working very thoroughly on character development lately. So it's going to be better. It's going to be an even better story than what we had before. So and so far it's a platformer with some slow fast mechanics. Actually an engine hype. Yes. It's been some time. Indeed, but yeah, we'll be doing some scene work next week. That's going to be next week's goals, maybe the rest of the month actually, but we might have some of the streams in between where we have a bit of world building and character chats, because I generally like to have those discussions on stream too. Hi Chubb, how you doing? Did I say hi to you as well, Julian? Hope you guys are doing good. And after so much planning, that's exciting, Rose. Yeah, it needed it. Like what it was before was fine, and it was decent, but I wanted to push it further. I just wanted to go all out and make it a more interesting story and make the characters' motivations and internal sort of conflicts more apparent. So I think it's going to be even cooler. We're getting ever so closer to that first playable build, and it'll be fun, be exciting. And I got a Twitch 2020 recap email, and apparently this channel is where I spent most time. Really, Chubb? Well, I'm honoured. I'm honoured indeed. You've been lurking away in my stream, have you? So what did it say? Did it just say you have spent the most time in Rose Rainblood's stream? Is that what it says? I want to see this email now. Okay, so yeah. So out of all these scenes, it's this cabin scene that needs the rewrite, because we've changed Violet's character and Fiona's quite a bit, and it's made this scene completely a little bit wrong now. So that's going to have a rewrite. The other scenes are fine though. So it's just that cabin scene really. So that's what I'm going to be thinking about over the weekend. But on Monday's stream, we'll be jumping into this scene first with Carol. The original Carol the Barrel scene was only 2 dialogue boxes long, everybody. And now it's this. You either get choices right at the beginning, and it's a blooming shocking choice as well. Well, it gives the impression it is. I wanted to go all out and have choices right at smack bang at the start, because I want to get the players hooked if possible. And try my best anyway. And the way it was before, although it was funny and amusing because there was this living barrel in the village. It was just completely random, and it didn't really connect things together as well as it does now. So it's much better, and I'm really excited to do that scene. We'll do that one on Monday. This scene's already done. That one it was easy because it's just literally just talking to the innkeeper, and there's not really any action, and that's already done. It probably just have to be changed a few words, if that, to make it consistent with the latest character development we've got. This scene doesn't even exist at the moment. This was like Carol joining the party officially. The red boxes mean negative affinity with the character, and blue boxes mean positive affinity with the character. But a good way to track it. Yeah, it's a pretty long conversation. If I zoom out, you'll see it's reasonably long, and it's literally just Carol talking to herself the whole time. But you do get a few choices. Yeah, that we can, if we get time. I mean, this first scene might take a bit of time to implement. I don't know if we'd finish that on Monday's stream, because it's kind of a bit action based, but we'll see what we can do. But if the next goal will be to do this scene once we've done that first one. It had a top 3. You were 100 hours, just beating second place at 97 hours when I'm really on it, chub cheeks. That's super cool that you spent that much time here in this little channel, in this nerdy little RPG channel. This scene's already done as well. The Fiona getting pushed in the lake scene was implemented a long while back, and I've used that scene in screenshots Saturdays in the past. But we did change Fiona's asset. Fiona's asset has been changed into someone who looks less girly, into one that looks more like a Tom, like, you know, a spunky little fierce girl, like a wild girl that'll take no messing. And the other Fiona was very girly looking, so new Fiona's great. So because of that, the whole pushing in lake animation sequence will need to be just redone, just so we've got the new Fiona, because we've still got the old Fiona there. This scene's going to have a complete overhaul. And then as for main quest 2, now we're on to main quest 2 stuff. Main quest 2 is mostly great. It was main quest 1 that needed the rewriting, because they're the ones that had Nigel and Fiona in them. And we sort of part way there with them. Like I've heavily used a lot of the fruit scene and the barrel scene on the cart in videos and screenshot Saturdays and things. So a lot of that's already done, and it'll just be about getting the tiles tiled for that, because we currently have our old parallax map for that farm, but that won't be as time consuming as the Everbloom Forest was to do untiled, because it's mostly just one map at the moment. That farm scene it's not as huge as Everbloom Forest. Hi Looking Glasses, how are you doing? Hope you're having a good Friday. Thanks for stopping by. How is it going? Okay, so yeah, there's a lot to do. 5 scenes in main quest 1 and 5 scenes in main quest 2, but it's not all from scratch, because a lot of this hard scene work has already been done a long time ago. So luckily it's not too much work on my shoulders here, because a lot of it's already done. It's all about just expanding and tidying up. And once I'm all happy with it and I'm like, yeah, this scene works smooth, it's good, I'm all happy with everything that's done with it, then it'll be about getting the battles merged in with it all. And I haven't said a word about battles for months on purpose, because I'm purely focusing on the narrative and scene side of things right now. Talking about battles will only distract me, and it's a lesson I learnt from 2019 as a mistake that I made when I first started this project. Because what I did back then, I'd do a bit of story one stream, enemies, battles the next stream after UI, stream after that story, and I was just like doing everything like I did it for the sake of having variety on the streams, to make it fun, right? That's kind of was my purpose back then. And because Raindrop Chronicles back then was a lot more casual as a project, it kind of just was okay that way back then. But now it's just going to be so much easier to focus on one thing at a time. So I'm not talking about battles until I'm happy with the scenes. Once I'm like, yeah, all the scenes are in, which, you know, I'm pretty confident that by end of Jan or early Feb, somewhere around end of Jan, early Feb, not sure what the date, I like putting exact deadlines on things, we could be coming towards getting those scenes put in, because it's not like I have to redo these all from the start. A lot of these scenes have already been done, so it's all just a copy and paste job and just adding extra details in some parts and just remapping some areas, such as particularly the farm scene. So yeah, for sure it can get done in a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks I'd say. And then that means February could potentially be our month for, you know, talking about the battles and getting all that put in between the scenes. And because it's going to have a whole entire rehaul, the battle stuff is, because since we changed to tall sprites, we've not got the chibis in the game anymore. That includes not using the side view chibis anymore either. I don't want the extra asset work. And I've been looking into ways to approach the battle system. There's some really cool engines and methods to go about with this, so I'll be talking about them properly in Feb once we've got the scene work out the way. And that's really the last job. Once the battle side of things has been added, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's just a first playable build at this point. It can be very rough around the edges and basic, and there's not going to be any like items or extra fancy things at this point, or any fancy animations of that kind. It's going to just be the battle system is most basic, and over time as we go through the builds, I'll be like polishing the battle system as we do it. But I want to at least get in a base version of it with main quest 1 and 2 for the first playable build, and after that it's just making sure it all works okay. And I'll be doing a bit of testing, making sure the UI works fine with the mini maps and the options menu. You can toggle on and off the things you want and what you don't want. Make sure any like black bits on the map are sort of filled in as well, because I know Everbloom Forest has some side black bits where we haven't done new areas yet, so I might want to just fill in those just so we don't have black empty areas in the game. So yeah, that's the plans. So we're definitely at a point now we can start the scene work. The dialogue work that has to be done, we've talked about it this stream, and we've got a few thoughts, and probably won't take much longer now. And it's been a good, have I already answered that one? I always forget what I've said and what I haven't in chat. Alright folks, so it's after 6 now, is it? Who wants to come with, let's just see if there's any friends on for us today first of all. I want to put trivia in chat, but I don't know if anyone is here to do it. The usual trivia nerds that do our trivia, that is. But if you are, feel free to shout out and I'll put one in. It all depends if you're up for it. It's exciting seeing a video game take shape. It must be even more thrilling to be developing it. Thanks, Looking Glasses. It is like it's all like, ever since I've been a baby, I've just been a nerd for just creating stuff, and it's just the first time I've really took it seriously and had the confidence to be serious about something. So you know, it is fun, although it is very much a huge commitment, a life commitment. It's just, I don't know what else I'd do, you know, if I wasn't doing this, that would give me as much fun. I'm here, LOL. Yeah, let's put trivia in chat then. Get ready, folks. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And that wears a helmet. Well, that is Chub Cheeks. Look at that dapper outfit you've got on now. Since we made your sprite taller, I have to say, you look like a real force to be reckoned with, Chub Cheeks. With them wings and that purple cape and that shiny armour. And you can tell you're a reptile now when you're walking. Like, you can see that reptile nose is protruding through the helmet. Like, it's shaped like a reptile nose now. You're not Summer, because you're proud of who you are. Okay. Oh, you got it. Lemon, I was going to say. So Lemon's the one with the scar indeed. So points, again, I've got to remember this. Yes, that's it. So it's the command first, then it's the name, and then it's the number. I've got to try my best to memorise that as best as possible. Alright folks, so I'm going to have to head off now, but we'll do raids and stuff next week and when we have a bit more time. I need to end a little bit close to 6 really. And I'm ending so late lately, but it's because I'm having so much fun. But at least we got the trivia in. Good things I was paying attention to chat, because your voice is lagging behind chat for me. How is it? Oh no. They know the answers and I don't. Yeah, well, all the answers are in here, folks. If you want to get a nerd for our law, the Law Bible is where to go. So feel free to have a read up. It's very basic at the moment, but over time it'll get really fleshed out. That way we'll be having way more world building streams in the future. It's not something we've really done too much of as of yet, but I can see it as the development goes on, something we end up doing quite a lot of, or more often than we have at least, when we start to flesh out the world more and when we've got playable builds and stuff. People will be more inspired. Cheers for the stream, Rose. And thank you for the stream. You're welcome, everybody. Okay, folks, take care. And if you're not in the Discord, anyone who's lurking, there's a Discord command. Follow me, sub on the YouTube if you haven't already. Every single stream gets uploaded there. Every single stream. Not one has been missed, ever. Every single stream. Shocking. So, take care, guys. I'll see you all on Monday, and I'm looking forward to making the scene with you all. We're gonna see Carol get close to being smushed. So, fun times. I'm looking forward, because once we start getting these scenes actually implemented properly and animated in the engine, I'll be able to do screenshot Saturdays again, have a bit more content again, because it's been a while. Take care then, guys. Thanks for being awesome. Have a good weekend.